In the 80s, man, every high school in the city would come here, party in the house music. So, another one of Chicago's legendary house clubs. We was competitive with each other. It was straight up beef, or it was friendly competition.
Who was the best then?
And Ron still did not have a marker for his grave. It will go all the way till Sunday, non-stop.
And how many DJs would cover it? Like,
are you kidding me? Only one DJ. Like, it doesn't, and I've done some amazing events in my career, like amazing. Nothing comes close to a huge fight with all of us right here. It went across the street.
Frisbees with vinyl?
Would look right. Marshall Jefferson, Move Your Body, the biggest house record in the world, broke right here.
Can I get a medium lemon and pomegranate?
Using as well. And there's this record. Now this is what happens in LA all the time.
I know. Gotta touch it, man. It's funny. I've been here and I've never actually.
This is like the pyramid of like house culture.
Absolutely, the beginning. When I walked back out through that tunnel, by the time I was at the end of that tunnel, I knew I wanted to become a DJ.
Welcome back to Lost Nightclubs. We are here in Chicago, home of the deep dish pizza, Al Capone, and also the birthplace of house music. Our guys asked us to meet us in the park. Oh, there's my man right now.
There you go,
my
there
man.
he is.
How you going?
We here.
Terry, this is Terry Hunter, world famous, one of the OG house DJs of the 80s.
Yes, sir.
Originals, still here, still kicking it?
Still here, still doing it,
still
man.
Still DJing?
Still DJing, still producing, still traveling the world.
It's amazing, it's respect. And you look like you're in your 30s.
Oh, man, thank you. Come on, man. You didn't know I'm 33.
Yeah, there we go. We'll go with that.
That's it, absolutely, man.
Why are we meeting here? We're in the park.
We're in the park. We're on the north side of Chicago, man, and this place was kind of special to me as a very young boy, man. I'm off probably about a year or two. Me and my cousin goes back and forth, but he changed my life when he brought me here. He had to babysit me, and he wanted to come to an event that was held here. And he was like, look, it's an outside event. Like, you're coming with me. Like, we can go. And I just remember we park in the car. You know, they kind of changed it a bit, whether this car park is right now, but I definitely remember walking through this tunnel.
So you're only 11 years old.
12 years old at the most, probably between 10 and 12, I'm gonna say. And I just remember coming through, walking through this tunnel, and you just hearing the music, and you're hearing the screams, man. And right in this area right here, it's now a car park, but it was a grassy area, kind of like over here, you know what I mean? Seeing all these people, man, and
have you heard this kind of music before when you came out?
Yeah, so the crazy part about it, I was familiar with some of the songs because I come from a very big entertaining family, I should say. So birthdays, holidays, any chance that we got when we were younger to get together, we did, and obviously music was our backdrop. And I just remember hearing these records and seeing these people, man, and they was just praising this man DJing. And I didn't move, I was stuck. So again, I'm between 10 and 12 years old, so you can only imagine. And I'm seeing these people, you know, they partying, they dancing, they're screaming. I've never heard anyone yell and scream because of a record, reacting to a record, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, how does this man have control over all of these people? But he was mixing, and that's what I, at that time, never really heard a DJ seamlessly mixing in and out of records, one after another. And then he was playing familiar records that I'm used to hearing my cousin play at the time and my family play. And I was just shocked. I was like, this is it. And I'll never forget, it was in the month of August, and my birthday is in August. I'm a Leo, and I remember leaving here frantically telling my grandparents, because my grandparents raised me like, yo, I know what I want for my birthday. And I knew at that point, I was like, yo, I want to be a DJ. Like, if this man can have control over all of these people.
So it was the power.
It was just, yo, it was the power, but obviously it was the love of music. And I did, you know, I love music early on, but yeah, it definitely was, because that was the thing. I was like, listen, people were smiling, people were happy, it wasn't a care in the world. You know what I mean? It was just an incredible vibe. And I'm like, how can I do that? I want to do that. And I just never forget, man, I was just watching him and I was stuck. And my cousin said the whole time, I didn't take my eyes off of him. I didn't move.
Wow.
And when we left, I was like, I want to be a DJ. I want to mix it for my birthday. So it all happened right here. We're on the north side of Chicago. Being here, that this event happened here on the north side, right off the Belmont exit of Lakeshore Drive, you had people from all over the city. So of course, I'm from the south side, my cousin's from the south side.
Yeah.
It was people here that lived north.
Kind of like universal.
Yeah, absolutely. You had people from the west side. It wasn't just a condensed thing. So, you know, things were happening out south, things were happening on the west side of Chicago, things were happening on the north side of Chicago. Just everybody has their upbringing with it. So again, one person does not control or own house music. It was a multitude of things that was happening at one time in different areas, excuse me.
Amazing.
So yeah, man, that's...
And that would have been like 82?
Like, I would say 81, 82 for me, when this event happened, 81, 82. So I saw this DJ, man, and I was just glued in again, just the way he was controlling people, and just an incredible mixer, like how he was blending in and out of records, man. And it was Frankie Knuckles.
Oh, wow, the one and only.
The one and only, the legend, the icon, the god. Frankie Knuckles, man, and I'm gonna tell you, that moment, and it's really surreal, that changed my life. That's why we're here. Wow. So I wouldn't be talking to you. You wouldn't have any idea who this kid was that was affected. When I walked back out through that tunnel, by the time I was at the end of that tunnel, I knew I wanted to become a DJ. So yo, we're in Chicago, Hyde Park area, 47th Street, home of the Hyde Park Racquetball Club. Big shout out to my brother John Hunt. Used to do massive team parties when we was in high school here. 3,000 to 4,000 kids. This is where I really jumped off and got popular and got my DJ career started. I went to Hyde Park Career Academy High School, which is not far. And when I tell you, the whole city, south side, kids, thousands upon thousands of kids. I haven't been in here since then. Let's see how it's changed, but
I can't get over these numbers. He's talking about thousands.
Not thousands of kids, man.
Wow.
Like they used to do Battle of the DJs. Excuse me, Battle of the High Schools, and I represented my high school. And yeah, man, it's totally different. Totally different. Oh yeah, it's totally different. So I don't remember none of this because this was one level, but you used to go down to where, it's totally cut off. They must use the basement for something else, but used to go down to where the tennis courts were, 4 to 6 huge tennis courts, maybe more, but that was the dance floor. And we used to kind of DJ up above the stair. That was the DJ booth. But I'm talking about when Gucci Promotions put on a party in the 80s, man, every high school in the city would come here. And like I said, it was thousands of kids that would come here partying the house music. And that's really how I got my start, because what they would do is they would do battles of the high schools. And John Hunt used to put all of the high schools and list them on the flyer to come out and represent your school. So since I was up and coming and went to Hyde Park, when I DJ here, the whole school came out to support me. So it was almost kind of a battle with the DJs, but it wasn't. Big shout out to my brother DJ Ferris Thomas. He was spinning at the time, and we kind of was going back to back. And that's how I got my start in a launch right here in this building.
This is how you got your wings, man, because you were actually under pressure and competition.
Oh no, absolutely.
It wasn't just the dance floor, it was other DJs and their schools.
Yes.
Hyping it up.
Hyping it up, and I brought out everybody. Like, big shout out to the class of '88, Hyde Park High School. The whole school, not just my class, but the whole school showed up and showed out in support. Wow. And I killed it that day too. And so everybody in the city was like, yo, who is this Terry Hunter guy? Who is this DJ? And then from that point, I was like in my sophomore year of high school, all the local promoters was like, hey man, you think you can bring those people from your high school out to our events? Right. That's how I got popular. That's the one thing about Hyde Park still to this day. It's known for having beautiful women and all of the best looking women in the city would come here, and obviously that'll attract the guys. And then there used to be a place right on 47th across the street called Gills. And they used to make these big gallons of beer, right? I don't drink beer to this day because the first time I went over there, me and my friends went to go get some Gills and we were drinking beer and I got so sick I threw up everywhere. So as a grown man, I hate beer because of Gills that used to be on 47th, which is legendary in Chicago. I'm an iced tea kind of guy. I'm not a drinker at all.
Maybe that's your secret, man.
That's the secret you think? Yeah, maybe so. But the sugar's not good for you though, I'll tell you that, but it's good. This started me. This what made Terry Hunter go to another level in high school.
And what is racquetball exactly? Is it like?
It's kind of like a tennis. It's used smaller rackets, smaller tennis, And I never knew it was a thing, but they named this club at the time after it. So
it's always trendy to have a like drinks and music. At like a bowling club.
Absolutely,
or like,
absolutely. It took me to a level to wanna produce records and make my own stuff.
Right.
And then 2023 and 24 was probably two of the biggest highlights of my career. I went to the Grammys in 2022 because I remixed Beyonce's Break My Soul.
Yes.
It was up for Best Remix Recording. Then turned back this year, I did Mariah Carey's, in the name of the record, the Mariah Carey song, I'm Working Hard, and got nominated for that. So I went back to back to the Grammys.
It's full swing.
It's 2 years in a row with two of the biggest artists in the world, representing house music, representing what started right here for me.
That's
what made me want to do, and just to figure out like, yo, I'm here, standing in this very parking lot, to know in February, I was just at the Grammys with Mariah Carey, the year before that, Beyonce. And my sound hasn't changed. I didn't go pop, I didn't go commercial. I stayed true to the essence of what Terry Hunter does and what the city that birthed this genre of house music represents. So it was all this hype with Beyonce, is this house, is it really not house? And all of that stuff. And I'm just thankful that she came back to Chicago. She came back.
She could have got anyone to remix it.
She could have called anyone. And you know, it was some other remixes on there as well. Big shout out to them. But my version of Break My Soul went through the roof and we got the Grammy nod, man. And I want the trophy now, you know? The nomination, I want the trophy now, you know what I mean?
If you haven't heard his remix, I'm going to put it down in the description below.
The funniest thing about Chicago, like, you know, being on the north side, at one point, like, very late 80s and 90s, you couldn't throw a party on the south side of Chicago. Everyone from out south, out west will come to the north side of Chicago, and these are the areas.
Why is that?
I don't know, but I think it was more so those were when we were transitioning out of the high school parties. You know, we graduated in, you know, my age group in 88, I was 18, and so my young adult years from 18, 19, 20, 21, a lot of those people went to college, and, you know, it started throwing these teen parties and young adult parties, and they was only happening in the north side of Chicago, and they would be packed, and people would drive all the way again from the south side, from the south suburbs, the west side, the western suburbs, and obviously the people that stayed up north, it's easy for them, but we, for years, only did parties on the north side of Chicago, for years.
Terry, where the hell on earth are we?
Yo, we in the underground. We in the underground streets of Chicago.
Wow, look at the size of this road. Like, is a road up there or train?
Yeah, main road up here. I believe this is Michigan Avenue. Okay. Above us is Michigan Avenue, but we're at the infamous location in Chicago, 326 Lower Wacker Drive, the home of the Muzic Box with one of my idols, Ron Hardy, right here.
Wow.
Right here.
This must have been like pre the nightclub, like a loading bay for something, maybe like a factory or...
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It's funny, Robert Williams is still with us. I don't know what it was before, but how he found this spot, I have no idea. But man, when I say cars used to pull up just playing old Ron Hardy tapes around here, over here, these gates was not here then, and it was the doorway here, and it was another doorway right there. And when you came, when you drove up, all you heard was poof, poof, boof, 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 boof. And you can hear the crowd, depending on if it was a summer or the winter, just reacting, man. And the Muzic Box, this was a historical place. I remember coming here as a teenager, being in high school. Ron Hardy used to do these marathons. And it will start on Thursday and will go all the way till Sunday, non-stop. Muzic Box marathons. Like Thursday night, it will go all the way till Sunday, non-stop.
And how many DJs would cover it? Like,
are you kidding me? Only one DJ, Ron Hardy, baby. So Ron used to live here.
Oh my God.
So he used to stay below of the club, even though we're lower Wacker Drive.
Yeah.
Ron lived here. So bathroom breaks, toilet breaks, whatever.
Yeah.
He would play.
It's got to be a world record.
For 3 days straight.
Jesus, it's got to be.
Sometimes he would, you know, get some rest and we'll put on a couple of hours of a reel-to-reel. But no, the Muzic Box.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like, you put on
marathon,
a pre-mix for a little bit. Yeah.
For the marathon, it used to be crazy.
Wow.
Bro, we used to leave high school Friday afternoon and come down. And I would remember coming out here at 6 in the afternoon and staying till 4, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
Go home, go to sleep, and be right back here from Saturday to Sunday in the morning. Like,
and this must have been all taxis and cars and stuff.
Cars, but like at that time, it was only cars that people that were coming here.
Yeah.
You know, or just maybe passing through. But you know, if during the marathons during the day, you would have regular business cars coming through. But listen, if you knew, you knew. That's the only cars and people that was down here was coming to 326.
And you recognize it mainly because of the steps, right?
Yeah.
The steps
it wasn't even the steps. All of this has changed.
Yeah.
Like that brick wall, all of that is new. It was kind of like a wooden door there that you would go through. You would go in, you would pay, then you'll go into the party, which is kind of like the lounge area, and they had the bar there, and then you'll make a right, go through a little hallway, and then you would enter the club, which would be kind of over that way. I think that might have been the door. You see, if you can see where that brick wall is, where that parking sign is.
Let's go have a look.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, that was kind of like the back door. You could tell it was covered up. Something was covered up, and I believe that was the back door. When you went in right there, that part was the club.
Shout out in the comments about this entrance. And you would have had a fake birth certificate or something, right?
No, so that was the thing. You had to be 18, so we had fake IDs consistently to get in a lot of these venues.
Yeah.
And you know, I got to know a lot of the staff at the Muzic Box. I met the owner, Robert Williams, when I was he remembered me when I was a teenager trying to come up.
Wow.
And so just big props to Robert Williams. Robert Williams is also the owner and the founder of the Warehouse.
Oh,
so
same
the Warehouse
guy.
was first, the same guy. Years later, he opened up the Muzic Box.
Literally defining the word underground.
Listen, I'm not for sure, and I think the people should comment on it, but from my history and my knowing, I believe the term underground music comes from here. Comes from here.
It's amazing.
I've never heard of underground music or anything until Chicago here, and it literally everything here was underground. So, like, I just wish people, if we can go back, go on YouTube, find some old Ron Hardy live mixes from the Muzic Box. Like, it's nothing like it in the world.
Wow.
I can remember this as a teenager being down here, man. Again, you have those life-changing moments. Belmont, hearing Frankie for the first time, and then once I got into it, coming down, knowing about Ron and hearing Ron was a whole another level, another experience, that it was just crazy. And again, all walks of life, man. You had street guys, you had thugs, you had preppy guys and preppy girls, you had a few Latin cats, couple white cats. Nobody cared. It was the music. And it was just funny. It'd be certain times we'll be so hot and tired, people to come outside, and it's just funny. Ron will play a certain record, and it'll be 20 of us outside, and we hear that record come in, and you just see everybody dart, running on the inside to go hear that record that he's playing. Wow. The energy was like nothing I've ever experienced to this day. It's nothing, no club, no country, no city comes close. Like, it doesn't, and I've done some amazing events in my career, like amazing. Nothing comes close to 326. Nothing.
How was he so prolific in finding the music and then manipulating it in the mix as well? Like,
man, so it was just Ron's style. It was just very energetic. He played a lot of the records faster.
Yeah.
So you have a record that's really kind of maybe mid-tempo, but Ron to pitch that thing up.
What kind of drugs was he on?
Listen, it's rumored, you know what I mean? But at the thing of it is that if that's what he was doing, that's what made it work. You know what I mean? DJ Pierre brought acid tracks to Ron Hardy. Ron Hardy broke that record here. Marshall Jefferson's records. Ron broke that records, all of those records here. Virgo tracks. Chip E, It's House. It's House was probably one of the biggest underground tracks ever. And Ron would do something really creative. We didn't know then. The record would be playing and it would be saying, it's house, it's house. And then all of a sudden, he will edit it and will play the record backwards. And so it'll be, watch it, it's house, watch it. And the whole record goes backwards. And people lost their fucking mind. Like Derek May, I mean, I remember him telling me a story. The whole Rhythm is Rhythm, new photo stuff, Strings of Life, all that was broke right here.
Wow.
Every historical record from that time, besides Frankie, Ron Hardy made it happen. Ron would listen to the records and put that shit.
Do you think the fact that he sped up the records a bit, did that maybe inspire some of the techno producers?
Oh, absolutely. Again, Derek May used to come from Detroit to Chicago to hear what was going on, and that helped influence their sound and what they were doing. You know what I mean? Big shout to Detroit, because techno, the techno that's being called techno now was not the techno that Detroit. That sound was totally different. And so Detroit is a mega hub, you know what I mean? And a lot of us went to Detroit. You know what I mean? So a lot of those boys came down here and we went up there, but like as far as the Strings of Life and all of that, it's broke right here. Marshall Jefferson, Move Your Body, the biggest house record in the world, broke right here. Wow. If it was not for this location, you wouldn't have none of these records. You know what I mean? And that was the pivotal point. Coming to the box, I knew, and I was like, I need to try to figure out. I didn't want to just be a DJ. I didn't want to be local famous. I wanted to travel the world. And at that time, I was seeing stuff that Frankie was doing, a few years later. And I'm like, yo, what do I have to do to be heard across the world? And I had to learn how to make tracks. And a good friend of mine at the time, Kenny Jordan, big shout to him, man. He doesn't get enough credit, is that we were DJing together. I used to go DJ in his basement, and back then we were young, borrow records, and it's a club, famous club on the south side at that time called the Hummingbird, and he lived not too far from there. And
that was your first gig, right?
That was one of my first gigs at the Hummingbird, absolutely. 87th and Ashland in Chicago, south side, and Kenny, my friend, stayed a few blocks over. And I remember him calling me, and it was right before a gig that I had at the Hummingbird. And he's like, yo, I brought a drum machine and I brought a keyboard. I'm like, for real? So he went over, he literally showed me how to use his 909 drum machine. And I don't know how to play, I don't know how to program, I don't know how to do none of that. But what I did, my very first track I made at his house will be the first track that I ever released with Armando. And that changed our lives, and that's how I was able to travel, because of that record Madness that I was playing on reel and cassette for so many years. Went #1 in London.
Wow.
That's how I got called to do my first gig in 1990 in London. And I had a friend of mine that we got cool coming to the Muzic Box. Dana, big shout to him. He met a young lady that was visiting Chicago. She lived in London. He started dating her. Later got married to her, had a kid, and I remember he called me and was like, bro, your fucking record is smashing over here. And I'm like, what? I'm all about Chicago. I'm like, man, whatever. I'm like, had no idea that this record left the record shops in Chicago. He's like, nah, I'm gonna call you back in a couple of weeks. He's like, I'm finna mail you a copy. Get this. This is in 1990. He mailed me a copy. It took like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Of
this Blues and Souls magazine with my record on the Blues and Souls magazine from London, #1.
Holy shit.
And my friend Dana got with a good friend of mine now, Jeremy Newall, which was a DJ. He worked in one of the biggest record stores in London, England, called Catch a Groove. They put their money together in 1990, flew me to England.
Wow.
And I did my first gig, and it was crazy because nobody believed that they knew me. So they put their money together, and that's how I flew over in 1990, and the rest was history for me traveling.
How exciting would have that been?
Crazy. But the crazy part about it, I told this very same story. I did a podcast for DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yes.
Like my brother, good friend of mine. Jeff's assistant found someone that had a copy of that magazine, Blues and Soul magazine, where the record went #1, and he gave it to me a few months ago.
Oh, nice.
So
how about
that?
Oh,
so
great.
I have the magazine now. And they flew me over there, and I'll never forget, I'm first time on a plane to Europe in 1990, and freaking, I got a big duffel bag like this, full of records. Like, I carried those records on the plane, and so I never forget, I was coming through customs. They were both waiting on me. And he's like, where's your records? And I'm like, oh, right here. And they was like, wait a minute. You carried those heavy records through the airport, picked them up and put them on the plane.
Carry on.
As a carry-on. So you gotta remember, back in those days, it wasn't, you know, anybody can come to the gate. Like, when you were flying, your family can be right at the gate.
There's no security,
before
really.
There was no security like that, you know what I mean? So I just got out the car, I saw a cart, put the records on the cart, pushed them to my gate, and just took them and put them on the plane, you know what I mean?
You got your fridge and...
There you go. So I just, I put it on the plane and, you know, got off, and they was like, nah, man, that ain't how you do it. You're not taking those records back.
Yeah, we're gonna put them in a case.
We're gonna go buy you 2 cases, and that's what they did.
Well, no one knew what they were doing much back then, because the DJ thing wasn't happening as much.
It wasn't happening like that, especially international.
You're like pioneering stuff.
Yeah, man, like, it was crazy. And especially, you know, you had people performing over there, but Frankie and a few other guys, that was really it. And it was just like...
paving the way.
Here, Lord Wacker.
Awesome. Side note, if you want to be a sponsor of Lost Nightclubs, hit me up in the email below. How do you compare the crowd to the different eras? Like, are they still dancing, or are they holding phones up, or was it mixed?
Chicago, you know, I can say this because I've been fortunate to travel the world, and I've been to a lot of beautiful countries and played on a lot of different festivals and islands, and something about Chicago people, though. You know, big ups to New York, big ups to Atlanta, that's really keeping it popping, and even LA and San Francisco, the Bay Area. But it's just something about Chicago, man. It's something about that.
There's a spirit here.
It's a spirit, man, of the music that, you know, it just still exists. Like, you can play a Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes records, a MFSB record, a Tramps record, and it goes down like it's a brand new record. But what I'm also proud of, because Chicago went through I call it a stale point, but I think any genre of music that is big as house music goes through that. It's a rinsing, it's a changing of guards, a sound, and all of that. But now, you know, you can play a classic record like Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and then you play a new Terry Hunter record, and it will be received just as well. And that's what I love about Chicago right now, is that they're super, super receptive to new music. You know, at one point, it was frowned upon on Chicago. You playing new music, they just kind of wanted you to stay with the older stuff. Yeah, it was a real big thing, man, and I hated it. And fortunate for me, when that was really going on, I was jet setting the world, you know what I mean? And bringing those sounds back from what I would experience traveling all the world to Chicago. And it took a lot to break that music. And, you know, DJs like myself, you know, before Frankie passed, rest his soul, you know, Mike Dunn, and a lot of us was, you know, Ron Trent, you know, Cashmere, Gene Ferris, Glenn Underground, Boo Williams. You know, we were really out there traveling, bringing that sound back to Chicago. And it took them a while to get into it. You had your core groups of people that was open to it, but you know, a lot of people, they just was, you know, purists. Chicago, they were purists, they snooty. They wanted to hear what they knew. You know, they always wanted to reminisce, and that's fine. But house music wouldn't be where house music is if we just relied on the older stuff. It's like with hip hop, you know what I mean? Hip hop evolved as new rap artists. Rakim and KRS-One and, you know, Run DMC and all of those groups and artists are huge, but they doing new music, those are, you know, they're still with us. And so, again, I'm just super happy where Chicago is right now to house music and new house music there. It's just beautiful that everybody is coexisting right now through house music, and
that's great.
I'm just happy.
I think that's what it was about as well.
No,
it
was
about a celebration of happiness and fun and like and diversity and freedom.
Absolutely.
It, you know, and it was a bit of a resistance as well.
Yeah, it was.
Because there was back in the day there was a lot happening in Chicago. You know, there was the whole demolition of disco.
Absolutely, right? Yes.
And this was like, well, we ain't going to push us out. We're going to go underground and develop.
And develop even more and create a stronger foundation. How I'm happy to see the cultures coming together. Like, I remember going to the Muzic Box for the first time, and you had gangbangers, street guys, like some guys that I seen in the neighborhood that literally just robbed and not seen shoot at people, and then would be at the Muzic Box partying with Spanish people, with a few white people, with even some of the people that was in the opposite gangs, gay people.
It's like the
and it was no problems. It was about the music. Everybody coexisted with one another.
And if that music opportunity wasn't there, it'd be just pure crime, right?
It would be just a complete mess, man. And especially the people that was following the scene back then. You know what I mean? You had guys, again, from all walks of life coming over to the city. You know, they was a Blackstone, or if they was a gangster, or if they was, you know, a Latin king, if they was white, whatever the case may be, that music stopped all of that. Gay, straight, whatever. We here for two reasons. It's the Muzic Box and Ron Hardy. Other than that, if you hearing anything else, this ain't the spot for you. Leave. So yeah, man, we on the north side of Chicago still. Another one of Chicago's legendary house clubs. Big up to Tony Batoy. Tony Batoy was a huge promoter and packed this venue on a consistent basis with a lot of people from the north side, west side, south side, suburbs, and he made this club a house music legendary spot. And then again, for me, late 80s, 90s, I was DJing and did a lot of events here as well. So you can't be in Chicago and not mention the Riviera in house music. It goes hand in hand.
I mean, look at this thing.
Yeah, it's still going.
This is a historic landmark, right?
Absolutely.
This used to be a theater from probably 100 years ago.
Yeah, man.
Look at the building.
No, it's crazy.
So, do you know when it first became a nightclub venue?
I don't know. You know, we'll do our history. Like some of the people that's in the comment from Chicago, if you know, educate me on that again. But I started getting, you know, knowing about, again, the parties here because of Tony Batoy. You know what I mean? And at that time, coming from the south side, it was a totally different crowd. It was more of a white, Spanish, Italian type of crowd. Of course, it was black people there, but it was more of like, you know, a lot of the hip house movement. It was really strong here. BMX DJs, Farley's and the Ralphies, and they had big Chicago versus New York DJ battles here that Tony Batoy used to put on.
Wow.
And then we kind of moved in afterwards, like 88, 89, right into the 90s, and we was doing college parties and adult parties. And then it changed. It used to be owned by a basketball player that used to play for the Bulls called Cliff Levingston. It changed to that for a minute, and then it went back. You know, it was always in Chicago. It's the Riviera. It's the Riv.
How many people could you fit in here?
Ooh, at least, I may be off, but a couple thousand.
Oh, wow.
Couple thousand.
And this is like a weekly thing?
It used to be a weekly thing, and a lot of different promoters used to come in, rent the space, and do these amazing parties here, man. It's a lot of history right here, especially, you know, before the first generation, and then when I was coming up, and we were doing tons of parties here, man. And so this is definitely legendary in Chicago.
And would you change up what you're playing for this venue because of the crowd, or is it just the same kind of stuff you'll be playing in other clubs around here?
Yeah, see, the thing about it in Chicago at that time, when they booked you, they wanted you to bring your crowd, so you would play your style of music. You know, a lot of DJs sometimes did switch up, but that's just the thing for me. I've always kind of been true to what I'm doing. I never kind of veered off too left. I've always kept current. I always kept my ear to the street on what's going on as far as a DJ and producer, remixer. But I kind of never, that was, you know, when you're a young adult, you know, you think you made an armor. That was just kind of like my thing. You gonna get into what I'm into. Like, I ain't selling out. I ain't playing this other shit. This is what we play. We from the South Side. You know what I mean? So
when it's working, you're on a roll.
It's that young mentality when you were coming up. You know what I mean?
Don't mess with the formula.
Nah, you can't mess with the formula. So that was the thing. But that's what made these parties great, because you would get someone like myself, Mike Dunn, Armando. Then you would have a Bad Boy Bill, a Julian Perez, a Farley, the Hot Mix 5, the college guys that was doing stuff on radio. Like, that made up the city. You know what I mean? Little Lewis used to do crazy parties here, and he just had a big homecoming here a year or so ago. So that was the thing, man. You get the West Side DJs, Park Avenue, Kevin McSwain. We all come together. Gene Hunt, I gotta say, big ups to Gene Hunt. He was a part of that nucleus of the second generation. So all of it, and we're still doing it.
When you say second generation,
when I say second generation, you had the first, which was the Rons, the Frankies, the Wayne Williams, Chosen Few, Jesse Saunders, Mike Izabukus, and you know, so many, DeAndre Hatchett, all of those guys, man, they were a part of the first generation. And so myself, Mike Dunn, Gene Hunt, Ron Trent, you know, all of those guys, man, that we were part of that second generation. Boo Williams, like, we were doing a lot of stuff representing the South Side. And then you had cats from up north. Big shout to my man Chris Underwood, that he held down the North Side. This is his area. And we used to come up here and do parties with him. And then go on the West Side, Kevin McSwain, Park Avenue, Rick Lenore, Fast Eddie, all of those guys were killing the West Side of Chicago. But we all came together, you know what I mean? Like, they came to the South Side, we showed them love. We went to the West Side, they showed us love. We come up north, they show us love. So it was a huge melting pot.
It wasn't competitive so much.
Say that again?
It wasn't so competitive as maybe some other...
No, it was competitive.
It was? Okay.
Oh, it was.
Oh, great.
Oh, no, listen, I would be lying. And it was competitive even from the DJs from the South Side. We was competitive with each other. It was straight up beef, or it was friendly competition.
Who was
Don't
the
get
best
it twisted. Hey, it was a lot of people. You know, I'm gonna say myself. I was one of them.
Apart from yourself.
But but I mean, you had a lot of cats. You know, from the South Side. Again, I would go crazy if I wouldn't say rest in peace to our brother Armando. He was a promoted DJ, and then you know you had the radio DJs like Hot Mix 5 and all those guys, Farley, Ralphie, Mickey, Bad Boy Bill. When they started going over to B96, they had the more of the white crowd, the suburban crowd. They were very active. You had the people that was coming in the 90s, the Derek Carters, the Gene Ferrises. It was just a slew of, Derek is before the 90s, but it's just so many different people that I'm missing out that the city makes up of great history. And let me tell you something, it was competition, baby. Don't get it twisted. Like, we used to have back in the days, like, so if you see these street poles here, right? When we was coming up in high school, how we would promote our parties, that we would get up and we would have posters printed. And what we would do is we would go to all the main intersections from south to west to north, kind of depending on where the parties work, and we would hang our posters up and promote them. And then you had another promoter that come in right behind us, snatch our posters down and put theirs up. So it used to be this competition when you say, oh man, it was when I say poster wars, it was wars. And so we would try to wait and see. Sometimes we even caught different promoters snatching our posters down, and we gotta run in. We gotta prod them in the streets right now. Like, you caught you taking our stuff down, and so that's what made it very competitive, you know. And a lot of us are still around to laugh about it, man. But you know, Chicago was brutal, man. Listen, it wasn't for the weak. You had to have thick skin, because a lot of people came in and they went right on out. And the ones that stuck through and made it is still here today.
Wow.
Yeah, man. To this day, you go on Facebook, you go on Instagram, and I'm just like, you know what, guys? Enough is enough. Like, we're here.
40 years ago.
It's 40 years ago. It's time to celebrate it. Who gives a fuck who did what, when, where? I mean, we do give a fuck, because you have to know your history to know, you know, your future and where you're going. But it's just some of the same things that people are arguing about house music on Facebook and Instagram and all of that. And it's so stupid that it's like, yo, come on, man, we passed that. And so that's what I try to represent in what I'm doing. And especially at this point, I've reached a whole nother level in visibility in what I've been doing musically. So that's what I'm focused on, is just continuing house. You know, the people that's the Facebook gangsters behind the keyboards, you know, they complaining about, you know, what it was, but like, what are you doing now to contribute to the future of it? If you're not doing nothing now, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean?
If house music had a conscience, it wouldn't want everyone fighting.
That's absolutely, and that is the thing. It's the same old.
And it does have a conscience. It's got a spirit. You know?
It's got to stop at some point. We get it. This person did this. This comes from here. This person didn't do that. Like, if I see another house music post or debate about the same thing again, I want to vomit, like, and swallow it myself. It's that sickening. Here's a good one. It said guest list. You can see the thing where it says guest list.
You must have some great nights here, right?
Oh, amazing nights, man. Amazing nights.
Some of the best of your career, you think?
Some of the best of my career. A lot of, you know, you look, I'm smiling because I think about a lot of things that happened, you know, fights that we had as kids, and other DJ crews and other DJs. You know, we've had some big fights inside and outside.
Here.
Oh my God, I could tell you two or three.
DJs fighting?
What?
Let's go.
Oh, listen. It was a.
We don't have to name names.
Yeah, no, it was just one instance. It was a big event here that a friend of mine, it's like a brother, Rob Thompson, threw, and there was an issue with a DJ from Chicago with another promoter, and he ended up getting into it with some guys, and the guys tried to jump on him.
Wow.
And we went to help him, and it was literally a huge fight with all of us right here. It went across the street.
Frisbees with vinyl?
I love that. Frisbees with vinyl. Listen, not in Chicago. Luckily, it didn't get to that.
There's
but
like a gun in the crowd.
Nah, listen, literally.
Wow.
Some people, but you know, we was able to duke it out, and you know, the next day, talk about it, and we're still here, thank God. You know, where today is a little different. People don't like to fight; they're scary. They just want to pull out a gun and shoot. But it was a lot of legendary parties and a lot of legendary fights. Like, I'm not gonna paint the picture. In Chicago, the home of house was so no.
Wow.
It went down here, trust me.
Something's going down now, let's go!
Hope you're enjoying the podcast, people. We're giving away one of these Lost Nightclub t-shirts, as you see right here, beautiful. We're gonna give away to the person with the best comment, the most helpful, the most insightful, the funniest, the most relevant. If you were in Chicago around these years and you know these nightclubs, we'd love to hear from you. And if you're really enjoying this content, please grab one of these t-shirts. You'll see the link below. It'll help support to do more. Let's get back to Chicago.
Honoring the godfather of house music, Frankie Knuckles' way.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. So that's the city giving a nod to Frankie for his influence.
Jefferson and Adams, the original warehouse, is right behind us.
Oh, it's just over here?
Yeah.
Let's go have a look. Now, the era of the warehouse was 77?
Like 77, 78. I think it might have closed 81.
Yep.
We can look that up. Because I know it's going to be a lot of purists like, no, it was this. Nah, we know. All right.
Now
but this is it. Got to touch it, man. It's funny. I've been here and I've never actually
This is like the pyramid of like house culture.
Absolutely. The beginning.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Having a little moment here, guys.
There it is.
That's cool. Look, it's still like this is now been it's a landmark.
It's a landmark now.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So
I'm so happy that they got that we won't lose this great part of our history that has been and done so well for so many people around the world. But this is one of the beginnings of house music, man.
So let's talk about it for the people that don't know.
Yeah.
Did Larry Levan play here?
No.
Okay.
No. Larry never played here, but Robert Williams, how it happened, originally was from New York, from what I was been told and heard from him directly, that he was looking for a DJ to open up to play at an after-hours party, which was here. And he went to New York. I believe he did offer it to Larry Van first.
Yes.
And he turned it down.
He said nah, and it was like Knuckles was like,
yeah, and Frankie went right in and came here, and this is the legendary warehouse, man.
Culturally at that time, we had the disco thing where, you know, there was a big event it was a baseball game.
Yeah, at the Comiskey Park at that time where the Chicago White Sox play.
Yeah, and it was an awful thing because
a
lot of people didn't like disco, and they actually went quite violent with it and did this big protest. And
but it was more that they didn't like disco. It was more.
It was black gay people, right?
It was more of a racist thing.
It was a racist
to me.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Places like this was a safe place for people of color, LGBTQ, to come and have a good time in a cool place. You know, safe space. You know,
absolutely.
And on top of that, the coolest music ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
The term, I'm throwing up the quotes.
Yes.
House music. This is where the name comes from. But there's been some banter about that back and forth. You know what I mean?
So let's get into that. So on Wikipedia, currently I think it says they're putting it a full nod to here that house music got its term because of this place called The Warehouse.
Yes.
But we've been hearing from, say, Wayne Williams and other people, and your cousin, that the house parties on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah, west side too.
And west side. We're playing the disco. We weren't playing the house music as we know it today.
Right.
The 4 on the floor stuff, it was a bit more the disco.
It was all disco funk.
But it was underground in the way the music was.
Yes.
And not here in the mainstream, people were calling them house parties.
So
or house music.
Exactly. For me, in my upbringing, again, we talk about second generation, I always known house music to come from the warehouse. So for many, many years, my thing was, it started at the warehouse. But then again, in learning the history, and again, my cousin who got me started has been to the warehouse saying, no, it did come from music that was people playing in their basement and in their houses. And so I don't think it's wrong. I think all of those things had a combination of the term house music, where it came from. Some people experience came from here.
Yeah.
Some from the parties being thrown in people's houses. So I don't think anyone's wrong. You know what I mean? But for me and my generation, I'm giving the credit
to the warehouse.
Right here.
Okay. All right.
So for me, and not to say that they're wrong, but you know what I mean?
How about, because Wikipedia you can modify, right? If you guys want to throw that into Wikipedia, we're going to redefine it or put the nod to the pre-term of house music.
There you go.
Well, the interesting fact is that you could say it's house music, but it wasn't the house music as we know today.
Exactly, because if you go
so it's a combination, because this is where, around the area where
they wasn't playing house music then.
Yeah. When was Jesse Saunders' track?
84.
84.
1984. This was closed by 84.
That's an interesting thing.
So that's the thing to where, yes. So the first house record is credited from Jesse Saunders, which came out in 1984. Right. But again, before house music was a legal term, we were calling it house music. But we were calling disco records house music. That was just our slang term, I guess, what it is to hip hop music or rap music. I know hip hop is a way of life, but people still contributed hip hop being a music form as well, not just a way of life. So it's one of those things that you had house heads, or you can look at somebody and be like, oh, you house music. or you house, excuse me, by the way you dressed or by the way you look. It was a certain style that you had, and they'd be like, oh, he house. You know what I mean?
Interesting. It's another.
So it's a whole nother perspective, and I don't think anybody was wrong. It's just where your upbringing. You know, so Wayne was like, no, for sure, it was here. And Wayne Williams is right. My cousin was right. And whoever had their beliefs that was here is also right. So for me, I'm gonna lean more towards the term got defined, even though house didn't come out to 84. This was the start of it. Even if he was playing disco music, they was going to the warehouse to hear house music.
So fun fact with the Jesse Saunders song, On and On, he had a song, and I think it was like, he had a record, and it was it Donna Summers?
Donna Summers, yes. It was Wayne Williams' record, apparently.
Okay.
And Wayne had a gig and took the record back from Jesse. Jesse apparently got upset. And Jesse said, well, that's all right. I'm going to redo the record.
I'm going to make it myself with
go.
this drum machine.
That's it.
This new little rolling thing I got, right?
Absolutely.
Isn't that fantastic?
And there you go. Here we are.
Because you hear that one section in that song, and you're like, oh my God, that's the setup.
That's the setup. Dun, 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 dun. That's it. That's it. Wow. I love it.
There it is, man.
We're here in Chicago, the original.
Let's go. All right, we're at Mario's Italian Lemonade. Apparently this is a bit of an institution.
For me, I've been coming here since I was 3 or 4 years old. My parents used to bring me here, my grandparents. And now my kids come here on their own. It's probably the best Italian ice in America, period.
Holy, here we go. Damn. Hi there. Can I get a medium lemon and pomegranate?
Medium lemon pomegranate.
What do you want, man?
Let me have a large pomegranate, and I'm gonna do watermelon. Yep.
Anything else for you guys?
That'll be it.
I got this.
No, I got it.
How did you do that? Come on. We got our thingamajiggies.
Italian ice. Mario's.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Fuck, that's good. Oh, it is good.
So yeah, man, we're right here. One of my old stomping grounds when I started becoming really popular around the city of Chicago. This building that we're looking at right now used to be a venue called AKA's. It used to have college nights here, super popular. Everyone from the south side of Chicago, really the whole city used to come here, and the venue was called AKA's. And it was very, very impactful in my journey getting to the next level as a DJ, you know what I mean? This is kind of where I did a lot of events. I had one special event here in particular. It was my birthday party. Oh, wow. And I've always wanted Ron Hardy to play with me.
Oh, right, because he was one of your influences.
Absolutely, definitely one of my influences early on.
Yeah. And what was the club like itself?
Yeah, so the club was cool. This was like the entranceway that we come in right here, and then you come in, you pay. It was set up where you pay at the door, then there was another set of doors, and you could kind of just walk right into the room. They had, some seating on this side, and then you had the dance floor, and there was a bar towards the back. And I believe on this side, there was another room. It had like pool tables kind of set up, but it just was the front entrance. And when we were coming in DJing, because at that time we was talking to all the girls, and so to avoid coming through the door, people saying, hey, let me in. We used to go right through, it was a side door right here. And go right through the side door, and that was easy for us to get in the club and then go straight to the DJ booth.
And you would have been carrying big
at that time,
right?
like that was the whole thing. When you pull up, that was the parking lot that we would park in, and so you got all your guys waiting, because that was the thing. They like, yo, whoever carrying the crate of records is who getting in free. You know what I mean? So we have 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 crates of records. And then you got all your guys picking up, carrying your records, because that's how they got in free.
And you had like 2 copies of each sometimes.
Oh,
right?
Listen, absolutely. 2 copies of each, and we was doing it, and so that was the thing, man. You had cats just waiting, and it used to just be packed.
And just going back to your birthday party.
Yes.
How did that night go? Did he come?
So what happened, so we was putting together, at that time, my brother John Hunt, Gucci Promotions, we started doing our own events. And they was like, yo, you got to do your birthday party here, man. And I was saying to myself, I want Ron Hardy to play with me, right? I imagine someone that's my idol who I'm looking up to in 89, 90. You know, I had my birthday party and I just had the courage to ask him. You know, I was like, listen, Ron, super nervous, you know what I mean? And at that time, the girl that I was dating is my actual wife now of 29 years.
Oh, great, wow.
Ron had liked her, and I remember him telling me early on as a teenager, like, yeah, she's good for you. You're gonna marry that girl.
Oh, wow.
Early on,
That's
you know what I
nice.
mean? And so he loved still my wife now.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I think, helped me. He's like, look, not only am I honored to do your birthday party, he said, yes, I would do it, but it's your birthday. I'm gonna open up for you.
Nice.
So if you're from Chicago, you're talking about 89, 90, to have someone like Ron Hardy not only say he will play your event, but he will open up for you. It wasn't too many people that Ron Hardy would do that for. And there's posters out. It made it in a movie, actually, a sitcom that's filmed here called The Shae. But there's a poster with Ron Hardy on my birthday party that's out there. I'm gonna get you the clip so you can maybe edit it in. But like that right there was a life-changing moment for me. Another note, history note on that, in which I'm proud of, and a lot of the things I've done in my career is when Ron passed, years after, myself with a group of other people came together, and Ron still did not have a marker for his grave. And during the pandemic, we raised money to put a marker on Ron's grave where he's buried at right now in Springfield, Illinois.
That's very noble.
So that's one of my ways of always saying thank you to Ronnie and what he did for me and what he meant for me.
Because he did that back to you?
Absolutely, man. And so
this is a mosque now?
This is a mosque now, yeah.
Wow. And it was a church at some stage?
Well, this is a church now.
Okay, I mean like a Christian church? Or no, it was
never a church.
Okay.
It was never a church, I believe, until now.
Yeah.
But this is the grounds of a legendary club in Chicago.
Might be closed for today.
Yeah, they probably closed.
Any party people who had come to AKA? Write down in your comments your experience here.
Absolutely. Right on the corner of Broadway and Rosemont.
We're here with Kirk Townsend, another chosen few member here, and we're just talking about the definition of house again.
So like for me, I give my perspective, again, like we were saying, in the second generation, but that's my history. These guys were the start, you know what I mean? So it's cool to hear from their perspective of what it is.
So just to give you an idea, this area that you're in now, just to the south of here, is called South Shore. It's where a lot of Jewish people live in the 50s and 60s, and they have huge apartments, and a lot of the gay community moved over here because they could be withheld safely among the Jews and everything, and so you had a higher concentration of gay people living in South Shore than any other neighborhood in Chicago till it festered north. Because they didn't have air conditioning like central air in these apartments, they would have private parties because it was safe for them to do more private events and things like that. And because there was no air conditioning, they would open the windows and stuff, and then you could hear the music out in the street. And so a lot of times people would go by and say, and these are people like older than me, like in their late 60s, and they would say, that's that house music, because they would hear this music coming out of there, and it was soulful disco that they, at that particular time, in the early 70s.
Early 70s?
Oh, absolutely, the early 70s that they weren't familiar with at all. And then, of course, the warehouse, which the one at 206 South Jefferson wasn't even the first warehouse.
Where was the first warehouse?
The first one was at 555 West Adams.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it was a big warehouse.
Actual big one.
That they were renting.
So the one on Jefferson is actually kind of a nod using the name.
The one that Ziggy and Robert had rented after they had took over these parties from this other group that were doing it at that they had the name U.S. Studios.
Right.
So so it's interesting, and I think you can't really coin it in one perspective.
No.
So where we're at now, we're on the south side of Chicago, my part of town. But this area here is where we do the Chosen Few DJs Festival.
Right, let's go for a walk out here.
Man.
So you use this area?
Yeah, all of this is fully produced, fencing. This area is kind of going to, like the backstage area in front of us is kind of like, the stage is kind of over that way. Out here is kind of like the dance floor. And then on this side is a lot of vendors. And then all out in the middle and the back is just full of tents.
Wow.
So the stage is kind of like right here. So people set up proper tents.
They camp.
They camp, so we allow people, we're the only festival in the world where we allow people to bring in their food and drink. So they set up tents, they barbecue. 9 times out of 10, this event was based off of people getting together with a barbecue, bringing drinks. So it's good. You're gonna know somebody that has some food. And it's 40,000 house heads out here.
Wow, that's big.
So it's crazy because it's the only festival that the first DJ goes on at 8 a.m. The gates open at 7:30 a.m. The dance floors probably start to get busy around 9 a.m.
Wow.
By noon, it's packed.
That's the first.
So people come in, they're barbecuing, showing love. Some people do their tents up so crazy where they will always think you were at home. I seen people that had gambling tables where they shoot dice and play cards. Some people have brought blow up furniture. They set up proper like bars.
Wow.
Along with
So
cookies.
basically living.
Happens in July, second week of July every year. This has been going since 1990, but it started literally like right over there behind the Museum of Science and Industry. I wasn't a part of it then. They kind of outgrew it. And it's grown to this is now the home of it. 40,000 plus people coming in from all over the world.
So you say the Chosen Few, who are these guys?
Chosen Few, well, I'm the baby of the bunch. I became a member in 2004, but Jesse Saunders, Tony Hatchett, Andre Hatchett, Alan King, Mike Dunn. Oh, and there's the founder right there, DJ Wayne Williams.
Wayne Williams.
Nice to meet you, my friend.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Came all the way from New Zealand.
Yeah, that's right, my friend.
Tell us the significance of this place for you here, where we are now.
Well, I'm born and raised in Chicago, right? And I lived my whole life on the south side of Chicago. And this is a very famous park on the south side of Chicago, Jackson Park. And it sits right on the lake. And so I've spent many times on the basketball courts over there, playing basketball with the homies, you know. And then, of course, the fact we eventually came here. We didn't start here at the Chosen Few Music Festival that we did, but we eventually just became our home. And not only that, so many things have happened since we've been here. People come here for everything, you know. I mean, obviously they come here for the music. That's the drawing point, but it's also a family reunion. It's also a high school reunion, a college reunion, sorority and fraternity reunion. I mean, it's crazy how this has morphed into so many different things, but it's a very special event. It's one of a kind, and the only place you're gonna find it in the entire world, is right here. Yeah. The way the people are constantly offering you things. They don't even know you, and they're constantly, you want something to drink, you want something to eat, have a plate, you know. Yeah. It's an amazing event, right?
And I think that is some of the essence of house music, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's the physical form of it.
Right, because with house music, we don't do bigotry or racism or anything like that. It's all about humanity coming together under love, right? And the fact that everyone's welcome and everyone's here to enjoy each other.
Earlier on today, we were talking about definitions of house music and all sorts of stuff, and we're getting right down to the details of how things happen. At one point, you borrowed or you happened to have a record of Jesse Saunders.
My first couple of early DJs, they played out of my crates, right? Yeah. So I would get records all the time, and double and triple copies because I was letting my other DJs use them as well. And there's this record. Now this is what happens in LA all the time. Yeah, I know. This is unusual for Chicago.
Here it's like 5 trucks.
We didn't see about five trucks and 5 ambulances.
Yeah. So I would buy like double and triple copies. So I had like 7, 8 crates of records, right? Yeah. And so they would always play out of my crates of records. The early DJs like Jesse, Tony, Andre, right? And so I had this one record, it was a mock record, right? And I had a guy, it was an import, this guy named Brett Wilcox gave it to me. He used to work at this record store on the north side called Sounds Good. And so I would take it, and it became a big record whenever we played it. By that time, Jesse and Tony and Andre, they were getting their own gigs as well. So they would borrow my records or crates, and then Jesse asked me to borrow that record, but I only had one copy of it because it was an import, and they just did that. They didn't have any other copies. So I said I couldn't let him use it. He was mad because it was a hot record, Yeah. And so he said, I'm going to make that record. I was like, okay, right? Like I didn't know to believe him or not, right? And he was, he said, yeah, I'm going to make it. I want you to let me leave it over my house so I can make it. And that because he was mad he couldn't use it, right? Yeah. So I said, okay, cool. I said, but if you make the record, the next record you got to make for me. You got to produce a record for me, right? And he's like, okay. Because I didn't necessarily believe him if he was going to make it or not, but just in case, right? And so, sure enough, he made the record, right? Wow. And but before it actually got pressed, he made it on the drum machine, the 808 drum machine. And he used to DJ at this place called The Playground, which is a huge club, right? For kids, right? And teenagers. And so he would take the drum machine, and when he played the track, mind you, most of the records back then were disco records, right? So they sound, kind of flat because it's live drums. But when he played that drum machine, it went boom, boom, boom. Them kids went bananas. They was going on. I was like, we looked at that like, oh, we got something, right? It was like, wow, it's crazy. And so he ended up taking the different places where he was DJing, and then for a while, and then later on, because this is like 82 when that was happening, right? Yeah. So 83, he would taking the different places, and then we had to find we had to go in the studio and make the record, right? So he ended up finding the studio, and then he went to the studio, made the record, and then we had to get it mixed and mastered. So by the time it came out, it was like January of 1984. Yeah. But and because we had to find a pressing plan as well too, right? And so by the time he found the pressing plan, made the deal, and then his slow butt Larry Sherman was the owner of the pressing plan. It was called Precision Records, and but we started our own label. Yeah. Jesse started his own label called Jesse Records, and so he printed the label, and so by the time we got it pressed, it was January '84.
It's crazy because in that exchange, what if that didn't happen? And he didn't go out.
Like, what if you didn't give
Jesse the record?
Jesse that record.
Yeah,
we would have had a slightly different version of house music today, because someone else would have come upon it probably, but it would have a slightly different little swag on the beat or something. The
crazy thing is, because people don't realize this, the first record, right, on and on, we tried to get people to get the record. They wasn't no parts of it because it was new. Like they was like, oh no. So we had to do a lot of records on consignment. Oh yeah, we had to. And what we had to do, one of the things we did was we took out flyers. So wherever we played the record, we passed out flyers saying this. You could buy this record at Imports, the record store.
You're literally pushing the first house music song.
Yeah, because the record stores was looking at us like we was crazy when we brought the record in.
And they weren't into it to begin with.
They wouldn't do the deal. So we would say, go to this one record store at first. This is where you can buy the record. And then we did that, and it was already a hot record, right? Then the kids started going to that record store, and the rest is history.
Wow. Yeah. That alone is just such a pivotal moment of music history right there. Wayne Williams, you're an amazing DJ. You've been DJing for, what we were talking about, 40 years now? 45?
5 decades.
5 decades.
I started in 1973.
Wow. Massive shout out to you. Big love for coming and featuring on this final part of our Lost Nightclubs of Chicago. Yes. Go check out all these guys. They're still gigging, and they're going to be gigging for a lot longer. Another decade. Let's go. That's right. This has been one of the best Lost Nightclubs. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you find these guys. I'll put their links down in the description below. We need your support. We'll keep this going. Get the t-shirts. Subscribe. Any last words?
Man.
House music all night long.
I was just gonna say house music, baby.
All night long. Let's go.
Say what?